Saturday live stream from the camper. I'm your host, Dave Knapp, man on the Manjaro. That's why I'm here. You are on the pen. Wegovy, Saxenda, Victoza, Trulicity, Manjaro, Zepbound, Compound. And if you're someone who is living with type 2 diabetes or obesity, you've come to the right place. We are the first patient-centric media platform bringing you news in obesity and type 2 diabetes medicine from the patient perspective so that you can have a more competent and confident conversation with your doctors as you navigate the world of chronic disease. We're live this weekend from our camper. We have been doing these live streams from the camper now for a couple years. It looks a little bit different each and every year. This year it looks a little bit different. We got a new camper, and so I've got kind of a quiet space in the back of the camper that I can set this thing up and chat with you. We're going to go over some of the stuff that is new in the news of obesity medicine this past week, and we're going to do it together here. But before we do, I'd like to say hello to Kimberly, hello to Matt, hello to Michael, hello to Karen. Thank you for being here. If you are in the chat today, please make yourself known. I'd love to say hello. Thank you all for your love and support over the past couple of weeks, which have been a little bit difficult for me personally. But we're going to get into some news, and I'd love to hear some feedback from you or take any questions that you all may have. But some of the stuff that we haven't covered this past week that I think is worthy of chatting about, and that is the fact that this week we got some pretty definitive data that Ozempic, GLP-1s, do not cause an increased risk of thyroid cancer. Now, this is a black box warning that has lived on GLP-1s for a long time. Essentially, rodents given extremely high doses of these medications developed a certain specific kind of thyroid tumor. Matt, thank you. I appreciate it. Julie, welcome. Mitsu, thank you for being here. Jennifer, hello. But let's talk a little bit about this study, because researchers looked at more than 4 million patients with type 2 diabetes from U.S. healthcare records. They compared those who were starting GLP-1 medications to those who are starting DPP-4 medications or SGLT2 medications, sulfonylureas, second-line treatments for type 2 diabetes. So they compared those to people who were starting GLP-1s to see if there was a statistically significant risk of developing thyroid tumors in comparison to any other group. And they rechecked this with multiple modeling strategies and even built in a 1-year lag time to account for slow-growing tumors, and nothing. There is no increased risk for type 2 diabetics on GLP-1s versus any other type 2 diabetes medication for an increased risk of thyroid tumors. This was looking at 4 million patients. 4 million patients. So this is a staggering number that slaps in the face of anybody who has heard that you're on a GLP-1 is like, you're going to get thyroid cancer. I hope you know that. I hope that they know that there's data out that works in the contrary, right? It's also important to note anytime that we chat about this that rats actually have cells in their thyroid with receptors for GLP-1 that humans do not. So I see more coming in here. SRT, Christina, Robin, GLP-1 Journey in Review, Cynthia, Tom, Ray, hello. Thank you for being, thank you for the kind words, Matt. So that was some news in terms of the thyroid cancer risk that came out this week. There was another study that came out this past week, which is very interesting, and that was on the topic here of, let me pull this back through. I know that there was another big study. Well, before we go to the study, let's talk a little bit about some bipartisan legislation that's being advanced through the Senate right now, or been introduced in the Senate right now. So Senator Bernie Sanders this past week, who you all are probably likely familiar with. He's been a long, outspoken vocal critic of our American healthcare system. He has actually proposed legislation that would be aimed at banning drug advertisements direct to consumer in the United States. There's only 36 people in here, but any thumbs up that you can give would be greatly appreciated. I think that YouTube has really pulled back on pushing out our content since we took a little bit of a break with my health scare and everything. So I really now more than ever need your help with the thumbs up and the shares and all the things. But yeah, this legislation would be aimed at ending the advertisement direct to consumer of prescription drugs in the United States. We are one of only 2 countries in the whole world that actually allows this to happen. And it's interesting, the response that I've gotten from the community has been really interesting because, you know, I don't like it personally, just because I don't like the idea of one industry having control over our media. That to me is problematic when you think about how we want to get good information on drugs when there's information to be had. And it's hard to know that we're getting good information if the drug companies are paying for the press in this country. That's the biggest conflict that I see. But people in the community have brought up some really great points in terms of how that is something that's helped them get connected to medications that might help them. And who can expect a doctor to be on the up and up with everything that's out there? So definitely a mixed response from the community on whether this is a good idea or not. I'm curious to hear in the comments what your thoughts are specifically. Another piece of really, and this was maybe the most interesting thing to me to come out this week. Now, we've got a huge week next week in terms of obesity medicine news. Like next week is one of those Super Bowl weeks or World Series weeks. It's the American Diabetes Association conference next weekend. We're trying to figure out whether it's prudent for me to go or not. I do probably plan on making a trip over. It's in Chicago. So that is really exciting proposition. It's just whether or not I'll feel up to it or not. So but we're going to hear amazing data on retatrutide or forglipron, or forglipron is going to be a big one. Cagrasema, amycretin, all of the future obesity medicines that are out there. There's going to be a lot of information shared at the ADA. So you're going to have to stay tuned to our Substack. I do want to let you all know that if you're a member of the channel, and I see Ray is in the chat. I don't know if there's any other members. If there's any other members of the channel, Laura, I see Laura's in here. We have a new offering for our Substack. So some of our Substack stuff is behind a paywall. It's my deeper dives. It's the stories that I come up with first, not just regurgitated articles that you can find somewhere else. A lot of what we do is aggregating stories around here and giving them to you from the patient perspective. But a lot of what we do is we come up with our own stories, as we are industry insiders at this point. We're connected to anybody who's anybody in this industry, and we're constantly getting information and sharing that with you. So a little bit is behind the paywall, but that's okay, because that's what supports the work that we do. If you believe in what we do, and if you are a member on YouTube, you can send me an email at davidonthepen.com. I'm offering a 50% off an annual prescription subscription. GLP's on the mind. An annual subscription for those of you who are members for 50% off. 50% off. So some people had asked for that within the comments of some of my videos, and I found a way to offer it. So if you want to join the Substack and get obesity medicine news delivered to your inbox, and you are a member of the YouTube channel, you can now get that for 50% off. But let's talk a little bit about eloralintide. So eloralintide is a really exciting candidate from Eli Lilly. It is their amylin agonist, and amylin is a non-incretin hormone. So the medicines that we have for obesity right now, we tend to just call them GLP-1s, and most of them are, but tirzepatide, Mounjaro and Zepbound are actually a GLP-1 and GIP. Those fall under the incretin hormone, incretin mimetic category. Amylin is a non-incretin hormone, so it combines, these GLP-1s or GLP-1 GIP plus an amylin analog. And amylin is a hormone that's co-secreted in your pancreas along with insulin in response to nutrient intake, and it helps to lower your blood sugar. It helps to regulate your digestion, and it works to help you feel full. It really has some extremely positive features in terms of appetite suppressant. So thank you. I appreciate all of your kind words that you're continuing to give me. Many well wishes on the heels of all the health issues that I've been dealing with. But The ahead of the American Diabetes Association week this week, where there's going to be, like I said, a ton of information. We plan on potentially going. I'm feeling great, Laura. Thank you for asking. Eloralintide, which is the once weekly amylin agonist from Eli Lilly. So if you've heard of cagrilintide, CagriSema, that's the new one coming from Novo. That's combining their amylin agonist with the GLP-1. Eloralintide is Eli Lilly's version of an amylin agonist. And so it showed on its own up to 11.3% weight loss within 3 months on its own. And the plan for Eli Lilly is to actually be combining eloralintide potentially with retatrutide or tirzepatide in the future for people who are probably slower responders to these medications. And I think the future is very bright if you have not responded to these medications the way that maybe some other people have, especially if you see people online sharing their stories. It's very easy to compare, right? But knowing whether you're a slow responder or not is something that's going to be super helpful in determining whether these future medications are going to be the right one for you. And eloralintide is Eli Lilly's stab at amylin agonism. So we're really excited for that data. We'll get more data later on this week. Of course, last week we told you about Metsera, who has a once monthly amylin analog of their own and a once monthly GLP-1 of their own that they're working on. We're going to get all sorts of data on all this stuff next week. So I'm super excited for that. But the topic that we were just discussing about being a slow responder or a super responder is going into that that second sort of story that I wanted to share with you. We got some real world data in terms of how people respond to these medications from the Cleveland Clinic, who was looking at the electronic medical records of about 8,000 people who started a GLP-1, and it tracked them for a year. Now, astoundingly, I think this is the surprise to the community, is that 50% of the people dropped off of the GLP-1s within the first year. So 50% of people didn't finish the drug for a full year. Now, we know that accessibility and cost are all a factor, but I still find 50% very high. But for those who did stay on the drug the whole year, there's about an 8.9% average weight loss between semaglutide and tirzepatide branded. They didn't parse out tirzepatide versus semaglutide in that number, but that was just people who stayed on it, that did not dose up to the highest dose. Now, for those that did dose up to the highest dose, I believe that semaglutide was about 13.7% weight loss, and tirzepatide was about 18% weight loss. And, all the headlines that the media threw out this week was real world data shows that people don't lose as much weight on these drugs, which was such a disingenuous take from this study, because at the end of the day, this was a 52-week look at a year, people's experience in a year. And if you look at the step 1 trials for Wegovy 2.4 milligrams, those were 68-week trials. If you look at SURMOUNT-1 for tirzepatide, those were 72-week trials. So to compare a 52-week number to a 68 or 72-week study is pretty disingenuous. And I would say that based upon the numbers, the real world actually tracked very closely. It was just that 50% of people dropped off. And I do believe that 20% of these people were on Medicare. And so you do wonder about coverage and how many of these were obesity medicines versus type 2 diabetes medicines. Access is the biggest issue. And that was the takeaway for me, is that the 50% of the people I don't think dropped off because of side effects. I think it's accessibility. It's the anxiety that people faced around not being able to get their drugs every month, or the shortages. All of these things are sort of playing into that number. And of course, the media is going to take it and make it clickbait. But at the end of the day, the takeaway for me is accessibility remains the biggest barrier for patients out there on GLP-1 medications or seeking treatment for obesity, and cost, of course, is a huge consideration as well. Now I'm going to drop some breaking news for you all that I haven't shared anywhere else, because I really, really, really want you to know that even though the last few weeks that I've been down and out, I have not taken my foot off the brake, or foot off the gas rather, in terms of advocacy. And I can't share everything with you right now, but you all gave information to On the Pen in terms of whether you were dealing with shortages. And then I came back and asked you if you follow my Substack. For those who were having a hard time paying for their prescriptions to send me the information. I want you to know that that information has been passed along to the proper channels, and I also want you to know that I am very bullish that we could see compounds coming back in a meaningful way. I know that many will say they didn't go anywhere. I can still get what you're getting now is custom dosing, custom formulations. I'm talking about the mass produced versions. I'm very hopeful that we will see some progress on that front. And as soon as I can share more details with you, I'm going to let you know. But I just want to say thank you to the community. Every time I ask you to help me advocate, share your stories, you guys show up and show out. And I want you to know that that stuff is not going unused, and it's not going into the void. It is being used to make an impact, and I am super excited to share more with you as I can in the future. And so let's just say I'm very bullish on not only the future of compounds coming back, but this community, specifically the On the Pen community. We are making a huge impact. We are making a massive impact, and we are moving the needle. We're moving the needle because this community is being heard, and I'm just so thankful for that. On the topic of being heard, I was going to be attending this upcoming week the biotech conference and giving the patient perspective from On the Pen to a big panel there. Of course, my health issues have precluded me from being able to fly, so our friend Mike on a Mission is going to be going in my stead, so we'll be hopeful to hear from Mike on a Mission. We've got some really interesting interviews coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're working on, I had to reschedule this, but the doctor from 1,000 Pound Sisters, if you watch that program, he will be coming on. He's a bariatric surgeon, Dr. Smith. We'll be talking to Dr. Smith. We've got Jamie Seltzer, who was recently on the Mind Pump podcast, who made a huge shout out to On the Pen on the Mind Pump podcast. He's going to come on. We're going to interview him. We've got several others lined up, and we also have the studio, the On the Pen studio, which will be hopefully fully assembled by this time next week. So I'm really excited for that. I'm going to take a few questions for the next 3 minutes, and then I'm going to jump off. But thank you for being here. Wish that there were more people in the live, but we got to get those thumbs up to keep pushing this thing out. Out of curiosity, what do you think would be a reasonable price for GLP-1 drugs? It does cost billions to run clinical trials, so the companies do need a strong incentive to do so. I 100% agree with that. I think you have to make them cheaper without stifling innovation. And I think that President Trump's most favored nations executive order, along with the Democrat-introduced legislation by Representative Ro Khanna out of California, which basically is a carbon copy of President Trump's executive order, is now in the House that has the ability to be codified. I think that is a great plan that would spread the cost of these drugs around the world and help it be so the United States isn't subsidizing a lot of the nationalized healthcare systems around the world in terms of drug pricing. That would allow the drug companies to remain profitable and the cost of these medications to be spread out. That's what I personally believe is a reasonable solution to the problem. Let's see, other questions. Any other questions? I've got about a minute and a half here, and I can take a couple more questions. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button if you're just jumping in here as well. I appreciate it. Yeah, and I highly recommend, I mean, so much of this stuff we cover on our Substack. If you are on our Substack, put Substack in the comments below. If you're not, it's just a newsletter. You can literally go to onthepen.substack.com and you can just pump your email in. You just get news delivered directly to your emails. And we do so much of it here, and so I just would love for you to check that out. The advertisement of meds should just be limited. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. How to contact you again for the discount on the subscription? Yeah, if you are a channel member, you can send me an email to david@onthepen.com, and that's a paid member of the YouTube channel here. I'm offering a 50% discount to our Substack. And Substack is free, but we have a paid version, like I said earlier. But you can send me an email to david@onthepen.com. How many aminos in a laurylintide? I don't know how many amino acids are in that sequence. Mitsu's on the Substack. Thank you. Makes you a slave to pharmaceutical companies. Yeah. I don't. here's the deal, Carter. I don't hear people talking with the same amount of energy about high blood pressure, about rheumatoid arthritis, about any other chronic disease. Obesity is a chronic relapsing inflammatory disease that people live with, and it deserves chronic treatment. And these are peptides, long chains of amino acids that mimic hormones that are dysregulated in the bodies of people living with type 2 diabetes and obesity. So I wouldn't say that it makes you a slave to pharmaceutical companies. I would say that people who are sick are finally getting treatment. They're finally getting treatment for a disease that deserves treatment. So I think we just have two diametrically opposed ways of looking at it, but I hope you'll stick around and learn a few things about the disease of obesity. Are you a religious man? Has that motivated you to help people? I am a follower of Jesus Christ first and foremost. I believe that that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, that He died on the cross to correct the broken nature of the relationship between God and humanity, and that Christ is the way to the Father in heaven, and that guides and directs my entire life's path. So absolutely everything that I do, everything that I say, I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but everything I do and I say is filtered through the lens of somebody who has been redeemed by the blood of Jesus. So thank you all for hanging out with me for a few minutes today. I appreciate it. Nobody really expected to get preached at the end, but if you've been with On the Pen for any period of time, you know that every now and again you get that. And we welcome everyone here of all religions, thoughts, creeds, and everything. But that is what I believe. So, and I got a miracle over the past couple weeks. Went in with an enlarged heart that was failing. This is what the ER doctor told me. They sent me home. 1 week later, I got an echocardiogram and everything was good. There was no enlargement of the heart. There was no failing of the heart pumping. And I prayed for a miracle, and I believe that I got one. So, seen people die on those GLPs. I don't think you've seen anybody die from GLP. You may have seen somebody that died that was on a GLP, but I doubt you saw somebody die from a GLP. I'm tired of the racism. I'm black and I love whites. Well, I love all people, all races, colors, creeds, ideologies. I love people. I believe that every human being was created in the image of the Almighty. And for that reason, every single person that walks this planet is created in the image of God and has intrinsic value and purpose. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being the best part of what we do at On the Pen. Couldn't, wouldn't, and shouldn't do it without you. Send me an email, david@onthepen.com, if you're interested in that 50% off Substack's annual subscription if you are a channel member. Thank you for being here. I love you.